Michelle Khare is the closest thing we have to an actual Avenger. Only the thing that she's assembling is this incredible set of talents through her Challenge Accepted series. Christian runs television and living room and so many things here at YouTube that help put creators up onto the bigger screen. And I am the creator liaison. My distinct pleasure is bringing YouTube creators together with the creators of YouTube on this, the Creator Insider podcast. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. That was an amazing intro. If I was doing that, I think I would have needed like 4 or 5 takes and a teleprompter in front of it. But I just want everyone watching to know that Rene did that first take all off memory. So that was very impressive.
This is how we work at YouTube. We just gotta let's go.
Yeah.
I watch way too much Ryan Reynolds. I've just gotta let's go. So your videos, I would say, if anybody's wondering what is premium content on YouTube, what is living room, lean back, television content, you're producing that. How did that become sort of your forte?
Oh, well, that is such a generous compliment, and only possible because of people like Christian, who literally brought all of this to television. And I think for me, I always knew I wanted to be a part of the entertainment industry, and I grew up watching classic half-hour television programming, and so it's something I consume, I love, and always knew I wanted to be a part of it. What excited me the most about YouTube specifically was that I didn't have to wait to make the content I wanted to make. And even though, if you go back to the beginning of my channel, which I don't necessarily recommend, I was filming on an iPhone doing Starbucks drink reviews. But always in the back of my head, I had a North Star of I'd like to be making something ideally premium quality with very in-depth storytelling, A plots, B plots, and working towards that vision. But what I appreciated about starting at that, more humble position, I suppose, on YouTube is it really taught me about the platform and the platform community, as well as the relationship with the audience, which is totally different on YouTube versus other streaming services. And so what we tried to do with Challenge Accepted is bring some of the nice shiny things from traditional over to YouTube, but also pair it and find a nice midpoint between YouTube culture and traditional storytelling. So, we hope to be respectful of the audience and their time by thinking critically about retention, about story, and making sure that every moment they spend with us is high value.
And you Secret Service, Situation Room, SEAL Team 6, as far as you made me cry over cheerleaders, Michelle. I never thought that would happen.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it's really a team effort, and we're really lucky that our team is a blend of people from traditional and digital working together to find that midpoint, and I'm really, really grateful for the team we have working on everything.
And Christian, what I love about YouTube is it really is to give everyone a voice. You can hold that microphone up and be in your living room or anywhere in the world, but you can also produce programming like Michelle does. And I think what we're seeing now is more creators sort of leaning into television.
Yeah, the growth that we've seen in the living room and on TVs has been incredible. And it's really due to creators like Michelle and the investment that they're making in great programming and really leaning into the client and the format. We've seen in the living room now that creators that are getting the majority of their watch time from TV screens is up 400% over the last several years. In fact, right now what we're seeing is that people are watching 1 billion hours of TV every day from YouTube. If you look at reports from companies like Nielsen, we're actually seeing that now for 18 months in a row, YouTube has been the #1 streaming app in the living room. In fact, we just passed 10% of all streaming watch time. And so I think a lot of that is attributed to creators like Michelle and the great work that they do. And so from a product and engineering standpoint, it's a pleasure for us to be able to build products that really showcases and highlights the great content they're making.
One of the things I also love is on television, you can put on a 3-hour podcast if you're working out or doing housework. You can watch a show, but also if you only have a few minutes, it's very hard to fit in a traditional show, even a sitcom, but I can watch a bunch of shorts. And I thought, maybe that was unique to me, but we're seeing a lot of shorts viewership on TV as well.
Yeah, we've been amazed at the uptake in shorts watch time in the living room. I think that's something really important for creators to know, that the living room is great for 40-minute shows, but it's also incredible for this snackable shorts content. Shorts viewership in the living room doubled last year. And so we're seeing this really great coming together of short form programming, long form programming in a lean back setting where you can kind of jump around between those two things depending on the time of day or what your mood is.
And sharing it with our families, because like one of the things I love is like I've been watching a bunch of your shows with my godkids, and just like seeing everyone's reaction is such a different experience than holding it on your phone or just being by yourself on the computer.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're really hitting on like how approaching the different mediums of video consumption is totally different, where on one spectrum you have mobile, which is highest access but also highest distraction, and on the opposite end you have a theater where it is highest barrier to entry for the consumer but complete distractionless environment. And I get really excited about television in particular because it is that middle ground of people who turn on a television have chosen to sit down on the couch and lean back. Even if they're, maybe cooking or doing other things, it's a different environment than either of the other two things on the opposite end of the spectrum. And so for us, like our goal on Challenge Accepted is you get a notification on your phone and you actually wait to watch it until you get home. Like we want the content to be so commanding and consistently good in the eyes of the viewer that it it is preferred to view on a larger screen in a communal setting.
I think, Christian, that's one of the things we have to talk with creators about. Because, for example, if their content is compelling on TV, they may not see the initial acceleration that they will with mobile viewing. But when that nighttime session or that weekend comes in, so do a ton of the views. And I think you can go into Creator Studio, analytics, advanced analytics, and see by device type what your views are. But when you look over to watch time, for example, that can be disproportionately large for television.
Yeah, I would encourage all creators to go and look at your analytics and slice it by living room, because I'm always amazed at the look of surprise that creators have when they realize how much of their viewership is actually coming from the living room. It's a lot of what we talked about here. Living room appeals to everybody in the household. We have a great kids experience that we've built into the living room now. We have the ability for everybody to have a really personalized experience with our account switcher modes. And then beyond that, I think if you want to just have that lean back communal experience, one of the things we've heard from a lot of our users in our testing is actually they love watching shorts, for example, in the living room, because it's a really easy way for them to share that experience with other people and talk about what they're watching.
Yeah. What else can YouTube do to help creators sort of better understand or better take advantage of the living room?
Honestly, I think for creators, it's just use the app, use that experience, go deep, go and look at incredibly talented creators like Michelle who are really leaned into the platform, see what they're doing, and start to experiment and test. We have these really immersive channel pages, so think about the types of images that you're uploading for your channels. Think about the type of work that you're doing, not just on short form and mid form content, but also look at the opportunity to create longer form content that really appeals to your audience. It's all there, and I think you can really learn just by watching the patterns of what great creators are already doing on the platform.
Speaking of which, one of the things I think is really successful on television, especially with you, is a series. You have Challenge Accepted as a series. So if I see that and you have that playlist right there and available, I can start binging. And that's, I think, one of the best signs that people are really loving and being satisfied by a channel is getting those binge sessions going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that Challenge Accepted is a series, of course, but it's, any creator can create a format, and it's leaning into what the audience wants and developing guardrails from there. But on what you were saying, Christian, something I was thinking about too is just how interesting being a YouTube creator is, because you are creating a piece of content that is going to live across multiple device types and multiple types of situations for the audience that they're in, whether they're at work or taking a break or between classes at school or at home leaning back on the couch. And so some tangible things that we do is we quality check a lot of our stuff on multiple devices. Our sound mixer will sometimes export things and watch it on a phone to make sure the sound balancing is right. And it's more specifically, honestly, with thumbnails. We'll open Photoshop really big on our screen to see how it'll look on a TV, and then we make it really, really small in the distance to see, can you still tell what it is on a phone? And I think that those are, simple, maybe even obvious steps to take for some people, but they were not for me, and learning those little habits upon export and critically thinking about how different viewers will engage with different devices has been really helpful to us.
How do you think about those technical aspects? Like, some people hear TV and wonder, like, do I have to go 4K? Do I have to have a better sound mix? Do I have to have a higher resolution thumbnail? How do you sort of think about those things?
Well, of course, all of those things are really, really nice and shiny, beautiful things to have. But time and time again, we've seen people or even companies dump lots of money and investment into something that's high quality but doesn't have story. And I think what's special about YouTube is that story, in many cases, wins in the algorithm, regardless of the production quality. Of course, we're nerds on many people who do YouTube are nerds, and we'll nerd out on
Kodak are you using?
4K, what Kodak and whatnot. And those are privileges that come with, as your channel grows, being able to invest in those things. But genuinely, I think out the gate, like, it's starting small and really focusing on your storytelling skills.
One of the things we hear, Kristen, is like creators will sometimes, like, there'll be a meme, like, make it longer and it'll blow up on television. But we've also heard that viewers value efficiency. And if it's just longer, they might start skipping or checking on chapters. Is that the key, though? It's like, if you tell longer stories, not just make longer videos?
No, the key is to tell great stories.
Great stories.
Right. So whether that story is 40 minutes long, 10 minutes long, or a 30-second short, it's really about the creator just articulating that vision that they've had and bringing it to life in video. We can handle the rest. We can figure out the right audience to put it in front of. We can really lean into making sure that content shines on the big screen in the same way that it shines on mobile. And we are doing a lot of work to make sure that the companion experience in the living room comes to life too, so it feels like YouTube, so that things like comments and subscribe and all those things that are really core to everybody's YouTube experience come to life in the living room and are really a great companion experience to that storytelling that our creators are so great at.
I know we can never get into spoilers, but just sort of how are you thinking longer term about living room and television and creators?
Yeah, we think YouTube is the future of television. We think creators like Michelle are the people that are powering that. We have a really great opportunity here to just build a great platform that brings these stories to life. The way we're looking at the future is really creating an app experience, I think, that brings everything together in a really beautiful way. Everything from short form creators to the NFL to music and all the podcasts that people love and are passionate about. I think the living room experience can be a place where that really comes to life in a truly magical way that still carries with it the best of what everybody's come to love and expect from YouTube.
I love that. I love that so much. And I loved your speech at the Streamies when you won, and you were talking about how with YouTube the only barrier is the upload button.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the biggest privileges of being a YouTube creator is being able to have an idea, execute it to the best of your ability, and have an instant way to distribute it. I love that in the process we have for Challenge Accepted, there's no room of suits we have to pitch to prove an idea. There's not even a fitting the show within a time slot. As Christian was saying, to focus on great storytelling, I was thinking about how we don't actually have a runtime for Challenge Accepted. There might be like a meta, like, oh, Challenge Accepted episodes are long. But some of our best performing episodes, like 911 Dispatch, I think that video was 15 minutes long versus our boxing documentary is 40 minutes. So it's really lovely to be able to not have so many rules, I guess, and allow the show to evolve as people evolve. And I think that's honestly what makes YouTube so exciting, is that we can move quickly because the world moves quickly. And I want to be making content that is relevant, impactful, engaging, insightful, and educational for people in the now.
We were at Brandcast last year together, and we sort of snuck off to the side, and you showed me a few minutes of footage of what was going to become that 45-minute boxing documentary. And in that moment, I sort of got what Neil was talking about in terms of creator legitimacy and industry recognition and treating creators as the next generation studios and maybe winning Emmys.
I mean, that would be really cool. Something I'm really inspired by, when I think of creators like Rhett and Link or Amelia de Moldenberg or Sean Evans, Hot Ones, people who went on an Emmys.
Khare,
Well, people who, submitted to the Emmys this year. It's really exciting. And I don't think ever it's, good to set goals that are out of our control. And winning an award is out of our control for all of us. But it's exciting because it means that we're all leaning into a future where when you open your TV, the app for YouTube is right next to all the other major streamers. To me, that is enough to show like we're right there playing on the same field. And I'm excited about, the intangible goal of winning an Emmy would be so amazing, but the tangible goal is to make content that is so good it is confusing as to where it could exist. And I am just really excited that it can exist on a platform like YouTube that really championships the convergence of creativity and entrepreneurship.
I love that. And I think we're increasingly also seeing that relevancy is with YouTube. Like we hear that people want to not just watch something, but hear their favorite creators take on that. And I think that's an incredibly exciting area we're looking into.
Yeah, we have this amazing stat from our research that actually tells us that most people on YouTube would actually love to learn about a live event from their favorite creator as opposed to just watch the live event itself, which is really exciting.
We hear from a lot of creators also that dubbing and multi-language audio is a great way to increase their reach or to make their content accessible to people around the world. How are you thinking about that?
I mean, I think dubbing is something amazing that a lot of creators are embracing. On our channel, we haven't quite yet, but we don't release as many pieces of content as a lot of other creators do, but that's something I really love to do more of in the future when it becomes a little bit more accessible, I think.
Is there anything we could do, Kristen, to help with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We launched multi-track audio, and what we saw was incredible uptake from a lot of our top creators, where they were actually taking on dubbing themselves and creating new versions of their videos that allowed them to reach much bigger audiences globally. Our mission is to give everybody a voice and show them the world, and I think things like multi-track audio and dubbing are kind of the perfect product execution of that. And so where we're really leaning in is thinking about how we can give the broader creator base access to dubbing tools, where you can think about creators from all over the world getting access to new markets and new viewership. And similarly, you can think about people in different parts of the world where there are language barriers, where they might not have as much content on YouTube, things that they're really interested in, where we can actually now automatically translate that content bidirectionally into languages where that content might not have previously been exposed, and give viewers access to a whole new population of creators. So for us, it's this really magical opportunity, I think, to figure out how to take something like dubbing, which a lot of our top creators are really leaning into, and figure out how we make that widely accessible to the broader creator base so that it's cost effective, that it's scalable, and that it opens up a whole new world of programming to viewers all over.
So what's next for Challenge Accepted?
What's next for Challenge Accepted? At the time of this recording, we just released I Tried a Nuclear War Simulation.
So stressful, so amazing.
Just a casual video. But I was really excited about that video because it was a bit of a different format for us. And I think it will open up a lot of different possibilities for the channel in the future. But a project we're working on right now that I'm really, really excited about is a video wherein I tried to get a black belt in Taekwondo in just 90 days.
I've been seeing you breaking everything in my Instagram stories. Boards, things are flying everywhere.
Good, awesome. And it's going to actually be our longest episode we've ever made. I think it's going to end up over an hour. We'll see in the final edit. And I'm just curious to see how that performs. I'm curious to see if more people watch on TV, and I'm just excited that we're able to try and experiment and lean into longer projects that I think, 10 years ago on YouTube would have been divided into multi-part series. And we're going to try and see if we can just release one big feature-length documentary on YouTube while respecting the retention and attention of the YouTube audience.
Yeah, I think once in a while we hear that people are losing their attention, but at the same time we hear about these amazing cozy comfort videos that are hour-long carpentry or camping, and then podcasts which are 2 or 3 hours long, and people just love all of those. I think it goes back to what you said, which is a great story.
Yeah, the beauty, I think, of YouTube, in particular YouTube on the television, is that you can bring all of this rich storytelling to life. And whether you have 15 minutes and just want to snack something really quickly, or if you've got a whole evening to listen to a 3-hour podcast, we want to make sure we're delivering that in the best possible experience on the biggest screen in the house.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Renee.
Great
and
to be
thanks
here.
for watching.
And thank all of you for watching the Creator Insider podcast. Just keep it real.